To Tim Loughton. I mean, this is obviously the Prime Minister's personal priority, is welcomed by survivors and victims of abuse. But is it any more than a sort of symbolic, well-meant gesture?
No, I think this is a real campaign and this is really good news. And I know from the time I worked with Theresa May as Home Secretary, this is a real passion for her. And I know she's determined to see these policies through into real action that will mean more women like Charlotte and others who've suffered horrendous abuse can live their life safely from these abusers, and more of them can be brought before the courts and end up in jail because, as your report said, we've had something like over 800,000 police recorded instances of domestic abuse, 7 women killed every month, but far too few of them actually end in charges. It's getting better, but still far too many people getting away with it, and far too many women suffering in silence. And we've got to make sure they come forward and feel safe enough to come forward and expose these terrible abusers.
Well, let me put that back to Charlotte Neer. I mean, how do you give women the confidence to come forward? What is the key to that?
I think it's exceptionally difficult. You know, most women don't, as I said before, their priority is not a criminal conviction. Their priority is to be safe and to keep their children safe.
And that's where the refuges come in.
and that's why, you know, funding for refuges and a long-term sustainable solution to keep refuges operating should be the priority. And I really hope that Theresa May is including that in her plans.
Well, Tim Loughton, when 1 in 6 refuges in England have closed since 2010 because of funding cuts, that should be a more pressing priority for the Prime Minister, shouldn't it?
Yes, and that's got to be reversed, and I'm pleased as part of this package, and there are many sides and angles to this. Yesterday, the government announced £20 million for refuges, 76 projects around the country, including my own constituency in Worthing, providing some 2,200 extra beds for women who are fleeing domestic violence. This is only part of it, though. I think we need societal change. Still, amazingly, in the 21st century, violence against women and girls is not seen as such a big issue, particularly amongst certain cultures. That's got to change. Okay. Secondly, we need much better education as well, because it's just not acceptable. And I have seen so many cases of women who are the subject of domestic violence because their mums were, and they thought, well, isn't that what happens to women? It's just not right.
Let me put the funding point back to you, though, Charlotte Neer. 20 million extra pledged by the government. Is that making a difference in your refuge that you run?
I think it's great that more money is being put into refuges, but the reality is these pots of money are short-term pots of money, and, you know, it's not a long-term sustainable solution. So, you know, I run a refuge, so I know the hoops that we have to go through to even get money from these pots, and we've been lucky, my refuge has been lucky to get some of that money, but it actually doesn't solve the problem, the long-term problem, which is that refuges are closing.
And are you still having to turn women away from your refuge?
Yeah, and it's, you know, I'm right on the front line, and, you know, I have to, as soon as we have a space become available, we have calls for that space, and we're the people that have to say, no, sorry, we can't help you when that space is immediately taken.
Tim Loughton, do you agree that no woman or child should be turned away from a refuge? Is that something that the government should commit to?
Absolutely. Absolutely, and that's what this money yesterday is part of. But also, women should not have to flee their homes and all the impact and disruption it brings on them and their children as well. The government last year announced the Sanctuary Scheme, which is about giving a sort of ring of protection around women who are subject to domestic violence to be able to stay in their own homes. They are not the problem. It's these abusers who are the problem. And we've got to get to it at an early stage. I mean, it's incredible that a third of domestic violence starts around the time of pregnancy as well, when women are particularly vulnerable. We've got to detect it early. We've got to encourage women to come forward, shop their abusive partners and make it easier to make sure that they're completely out of the equation and hopefully get convicted as well, so they don't commit the same violence against other women.
Tim Loughton,